It's absolutely appalling that this is going on. I'm done my rant.
Okay, and what if I told you I forgot to turn your mic on?
You and I would have a conversation after the show.
I'm only joking.
I know you are.
I'm just joking, Nick. I would not have told you. I just would have edited it. Oh, this falls under the category of don't sugarcoat it, man. Give it to us straight. We want to know what you really think, Nick.
You know, I'm doing everything I can not to pound on the table.
I appreciate that. And don't pound on your typewriter keys either, or your keyboard.
You notice I didn't hit the keys once?
I did notice that, Nick, and I appreciate it. Look, it's funny because you're mentioning this, and I only came at lunch today. I was looking at some stories, trying to figure out who I was going, or what kind of things we were going to talk about tonight. And Nick, as I was doing that, I came across this story, and I came across some pushback from other people as well, and not that they're saying incompetence or anything, but more along the lines of they're scratching their heads and going, because they're saying, well, but we do have the capacity to manufacture these vaccines here. I guess it would be under license or whatever. I don't know, but very bizarre, because if we're really talking, it sounds almost like the government now is talking about almost, pardon me, starting from scratch. If we're talking about starting from scratch in terms of manufacturing some of this stuff, and then getting it into the hands of Canadians, starting from scratch meaning building the capacity and the facilities, etc. You know, we're not talking December or January before people start to get a vaccine. We're talking potentially
December 2023.
Well, that okay. If you want to go that long, I don't know it would be that long in all seriousness, but certainly we'd be talking about mid 2021 at the earliest, I would expect. But it's so bizarre because again, I don't know the industry. I don't know this sector of the economy, so I don't know what's possible and what's not possible. But it just seems so bizarre that we would be talking here now after all of these months, and certainly in the last few weeks of the Prime Minister, procuring or the government procuring these vaccines for Canadians, only to find out today that we don't have the ability to manufacture them, which means we have to get in line, which means, if you want to do it on an equal and equitable basis, what are we going to do? Are we going to go have a United Nations General Assembly and have our reps at the United Nations draw lots, and we could end up being 131st out of 137 countries or whatever? I don't know. I just pulled those numbers out of the air. Just in case you guys in the live chat get on my case and you go, oh, there's more than 137 countries in the United Nations. Now, most of our regulars in the chat room, Nick, are going to give me a break because they understand I'm just, talking here, making a point. I'm just trying to illustrate some points here. I'm not trying to shove facts down their throats. But every now and then we do get, some yahoos or whatever. Anyway, I digress. I just find the whole thing very bizarre. And I wonder what Greta Thunberg would say about all of this.
That's a good question. But you know something? What really, look, again, I go back to the idea that it's not like we didn't know this was going to happen. When I say we didn't, we might have not known the particulars, but we knew they were incompetent. We knew they were corrupt, and we elected them anyway. And I wouldn't be surprised to find out that East Angola gets a vaccine before we do. I mean, I'm being a little facetious, but the point is that we all, I listened to terrestrial radio today, and there was a university professor who studies this kind of thing from one of the Ottawa-based universities. I forget which one, Carleton or Ottawa U, I forget. But he said, first of all, I'm scratching my head. I wrote an open letter to Maclean's back in the summer saying we have this facility owned by the National Research Council in Montreal, that even if it took having something to be licensed, the licensing process takes a couple of weeks, we could be making 200,000 doses a month within about 3 weeks. And that was back in July or August. So we could already have almost 1 million doses ready by now. So it's just enough to drive you crazy when you hear him. And this is why I say I don't think he's stupid. I think he's lying. And I hate to say that about my government. Believe me, I take no pleasure in it. But this is the kind of thing that this guy does all the time. We've been lied to since the day he took office. Why are we surprised he's doing it now?
Well, I'm not saying he's lying. I'm saying he's confused.
I'm saying he's lying. Okay. I'm not going to cut him that kind of slack. He's lying. He's not that stupid.
Oh, you're putting me on the spot, Nick.
I'm sorry, Joseph. Look, I know, but come on. Even if he is that stupid, is there nobody standing next to him that can whisper in his ear, Mr. Prime Minister, we had that capacity. There's this place in Montreal you were at back in August, remember?
I don't have an explanation, Nick. I just, when we talk about the Prime Minister purposely lying, I mean, that's a serious accusation. I'm not saying he's not doing it. In fact, maybe he is. It's just when I hesitate, it's not because I want to defend anyone's character or anything like that. Look, if the guy's a liar, the guy's a liar, okay? Pay the price for it, okay? I'm just trying to figure out what possible reason there would be to lie about any of this, one way or the other. I mean, they're normally when somebody in government lies, okay, and Nick, you know the time I've spent in and out of government and around politicians. It's not like I haven't come across politicians who tell, porkies, okay?
That's an interesting way of putting it.
Nothing new in this. It happens. Most actually don't, in fairness, okay? Whether they're on the left or the right. Most actually don't lie. Most actually want to do the best they can for the country. I give people that happily. But when they do lie, it's usually for a reason. And for the life of me, I can't figure out what benefit there is to the Prime Minister lying about any of this stuff. I can't figure it out. And
I
so,
can't figure that out either.
And as you and I always talk about, Nick, why ascribe to conspiracy what can easily be explained by stupidity?
But that assumes, though, that everybody else around him is stupid and nobody's whispering in his ear to try to set him straight.
Well, this is really... We live in a highly polarized political atmosphere. It's not as bad here as it is in the United States, but it's pretty bad here as well. And this is a pet peeve of mine, Nick. I have to tell you, the number of people in the political life who get elected, who are sensible, common sense, decent, honest people who find themselves in a situation where they're twisting their morals, their ethics into a pretzel in order to avoid criticizing other members of the team. And it becomes a my team above all else, and I'm going to defend my teammates no matter how stupid and idiotic they're acting. And to feed that particular problem is the fact that if I don't, and I'm saying, not me, but these people, if they don't, they get kicked off the team. So it becomes more a question of, are you a team member? Are you willing to take a bullet for the leader? Are you willing to cover up the leader's mistakes and the mistakes and et cetera of your colleagues and other teammates? Or are you going to be a turncoat and go out there and and speak ill of your team and teammates. And it's while I understand the idea of being part of a team, I have to tell you that it really undermines, to a large extent, the credibility of our political system, and it harms people. It does harm the country that we've reached this point where it's my team, right or wrong.
Yeah, obviously that's there's a lot of look. You're not saying anything I disagree with. It's just I want to be able to look at the leadership of the country, in this case, the Prime Minister, and I want to be able to trust that at times of crises, whether it be war or whatever it is, I'm going to get the truth. Now, sometimes they have to be careful what they say. Let's say if we're at war, like during World War II, the government could not tell you everything that was going on because they would have jeopardized the lives of some people on clandestine operations and different things like that. I understand that. I mean, every state has its secrets for good reason, okay? But this isn't that. This is just, for some reason, and I don't know any better than you do what that reason is, they simply think, it seems to me that they think that we are so dull-witted, that we are so incompetent of independent thought, that we will believe anything and remember nothing from more than 2 weeks ago. And that's, I'm sorry, it's just, I've reached the end of my patience for that kind of mentality. And I don't think I'm the only one. Look at this guy down in Toronto. We'll probably get into that story after the break. But Mr. Skelly and his refusal to go along with the shutdown regulations with his restaurant. And I'll just leave it there. But people have had enough. They don't want. They're getting tired of the constant level of dishonesty. And if it keeps up and it keeps up, that undermines our democracy far more than any conspiracy will. It's just a matter of people stop trusting the state because the state isn't trustworthy.
Well, I don't have an answer to that, Nick. I just say that I've, over the years, this is not just me being a curmudgeon or anything like that, because we're all getting older, and as you get older, I find, or as I get older, I find I'm less tolerant of foolishness myself, and I suspect that you're probably the same way. But it's more than that. It's what we're seeing is a general degradation in the quality of thinking and the ethical behavior and the willingness of people in politics to stand up for what they believe in, the principles that they presumably they wanted to get elected on, and it's a real problem. I'm not saying that you don't take one for the team from time to time. I'm not saying that you don't find ways to compromise, because after all, it's politics, and politics is a transactional business. So you're not going to get your way all the time. And sometimes you have to accept a compromise, and sometimes you have to accept, 50% of what I would like is better than 100% of nothing, or 0%, or however that saying works. So I get all of that, but it's
better 50% than nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's all of that, Nick. But it's in my view, it's worse than it probably ever has been. So listen, we're coming down to the bottom of the hour. So we're going to go for a break. If you're listening to the show live, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a few minutes. And you don't want to go away, because whether you're listening live or you're listening to the podcast, our next segment is going to be a humdinger. We've got a lot to talk about with the lockdown burnout, and now what's turned out to be virtually open rebellion in some areas now against the government in this whole subject. So stay put. We'll catch you on the other side, or we will catch you on part 2 of this week's episode, which will be posted tomorrow morning or Friday morning. Okay. I'm running out of things to say, so let's go for